what I'm going to talk about is probably a little bit different than a lot of the stuff you've been hearing, right? I mean, 2 years ago, I was out there and doing what you're doing, watching people talk. So I went out and I actually raised about $4 million and I started a company. And everything I do is all based on APIs and it's all based on data. The name, SportsData, pretty self-explanatory. What I do is I pay a bunch of high-end Division III college kids. I train them in how to score a game, a football game, baseball game, whatever, just like you would at the venue, right? The MLB, NFL is paying people to do this exact same thing. I just happen to pay college kids. Turns out they're really good at it. So what I have them do is enter what they see into my software, and then I publish that stuff, and then I sell it. It's pretty straightforward. Some of the customers we have, Google, if you Google Tom Brady stats, everything you're going to see is last 10 games, performance, historical, stuff like that. That's all powered by us. Walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings, if anyone's ever been there. I've got a 14-year-old. You're probably there 3 days a week like I am. All those boards around, or all the video screens around that are rolling scores, all like what ESPN or somebody is doing. That's that. Cantor Gaming, Vegas, Venetian, Palazzo. Is Tom Brady going to score this half? That's us. They also run some like daily fantasy games that are pretty fun. So variety of customers, Bleacher Report, your typical kind of bigger media scores type stuff. It's a challenge because we've got a huge variety of customers. So what do I sell? What's my product? My product is purely data. The only way it is distributed is via API. That's it, okay? I don't do any display, I don't cannibalize, nothing. It's all pure data. So, I starting a company. I have the luxury of starting from scratch. I don't have the encumbrances of a big company. I've worked at many big companies. I understand all of those things. So, but starting from scratch, I could do a few things that, were a luxury. I looked at what I loved and hated about the products I built. I loved and hated from the hundreds of millions of dollars of things that I had purchased as an IT leader, and kind of looked through them through the lens of kind of the 4 Ps of product mix, right? The product, price, promotion, place. I see all those years out of B school, I still remember it, and then tried to formulate the company around that. And why should you care about anything I'm saying? Because you want people to use your APIs. It's really straightforward. It's no different than a retailer. I have an API. People pay me for my API. Your experience when you go to Bloomingdale's or Walmart or whatever does not begin when you pull in the parking lot. It began when you saw that advertisement or whatever it is that triggered you to go to there, right? It's the same thing with an API. Whether you're coming to the developer site, how'd you find my developer site? What happens when you get to the developer site? Those are all things you gotta be thinking of, okay? So, I'm a geek. When you go to distribute the data, I was a consumer of all of my competitors before I started the company. As a technologist, how do I want to do this? What's the right way to do it? I have my opinions. She heard my opinions yesterday. She told me I was rather bigoted in my opinions, and I admit it. I am. I like what I like. But to be pragmatic, you got to look at it. So, step 1. I'm a REST guy, right? Since 2000, when Fielding wrote that little paper, it changed my life. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was implementing, RESTful APIs back in the early 2000s before they were popular in my own content management system. The principles is as you read his paper early on, it was like, there's one thing that came out. I've heard the word like 10 times already today. It's simple, right? Make everything simple. Don't let yourself get too involved in your product design, your pricing, and all that kind of stuff. We all want to be so darn clever, and in reality, we got to keep it simple. You ever buy Oracle? Back in the day, not simple. You had to explain it to their salespeople. Okay, don't want that. So as I looked at my competitors, how do they deliver all their stuff? right? They got all this data, real-time sports data. FTP, easy to spell, worked great back in the 80s, still really popular. I get tons of requests for FTP. I just say no. Again, it's rather dated. And, I went through all this trouble. When somebody hits return on number 28 running to the 43-yard line, being tackled by number 52, hits return, I publish that in 300 milliseconds. Why in the name of Sam Hill do I want to back up and go slow, find our changes and package them together? No. No. So, I've tried to avoid that. Now, the more clever guys come at me and say, all right, well, how about sockets and queues? Huh? This is how we should be doing it. And I've deployed socket applications, I've deployed queues. I've also on a startup budget, and I don't have a lot of energy to have NetOps people watching that stuff all the time. And it's expensive, and it breaks, right? Because the internet is a wild, wonderful, dirty, rotten place. So, again, it turns out there's actually technology in a RESTful world, of which I prefer, to actually notify, right? So there's no reason to do that. Now, I didn't realize this was going to be quite the holy war that it's turned into. I mean, I just had a call last night where a guy's berating me saying, there's just no way. And it's like, well, I got the statistics right here if you'd open up your mind. So anyway, that is a real challenge for us. So I think another important thing is as we put together APIs, again, a little bit different. This isn't behavior about my customers or anything. This is behavior about actual sporting events. You want to make it easy for people to consume. My challenge, and I know you guys have probably real similar things to this. I have two customers. I have the beautiful people, the developers, okay? And then I got these BD people. BD people are nice. They travel well, but God bless them, they're not technical. And what we do is kind of technical. So when you look at the output of an API, I've gone through great stakes to make sure it's human readable, right? Because I get this all the time. It's like, oh, I went to the site, I couldn't figure it out, I'm just lost. And it's like, well, you know what? When you write your XML in a way, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, that it can actually be kind of self-documenting and very consumable. It really does serve two audiences. And again, for a lot of stuff, we like to get it out there in the bloodstream and all that. That's all fine and dandy, but I got to sell. I got to pay my bills. I got a kid to put through college, right? So I need a little bit more of an immediate feedback for it. And so far, it's really worked. So the other thing to that is so an example, Derek Jeter plays in a ball game, and I sell Derek Jeter images. I sell content about him. I got stats, real-time, historical, season to date, all these kinds of things. You got to be able to cross-correlate all of that so that it's programmatically accessible in a predictable way, right? So everything I do has a GUID. So then very easily I can say, okay, give me Derek's an image for Jeter. Give me content, injury, this time frame, and rumors, right? Super easy to do. Make it very on demand, very predictable, and again, it helps almost sell itself. I think a couple of other things worth mentioning. Again, things that you got to think of as a startup. Everybody has a budget, right? I mean, it's really no different if you're in a big company or not. But I had a very real goal: no licenses. I'm not going to pay anybody a license fee. So it turns out you can actually do that. I didn't expect it. It would be this easy. Cloud hosted or infrastructure as a service hosted. You got to be good with what your competencies are. And I was talking about this morning. I'm good at SportsData. Ashley's good at providing this API structure that delivers your stuff really well and takes a lot of busy work off your hands. Amazon is great at hosting, and there's a million other providers out there that are really good at it. So, as we had to focus on what was really key to our business, what would be a real differentiator in the marketplace. And it's hard, right? Because there's things you want to control. The things we're most comfortable with, when you're most comfortable with it, you're probably going to spend too much time on it. At least my experience has been that. And then, practicality too. As you think about, I don't want to go too long here. I don't know if I want to open up the can of worms on that one, but when you look at adding customers, I mean, we talk about scale and everything. And, as computer scientists, we can argue about this is truly real time and this isn't. And there's a lot of trade-offs you can make with regards to good enough, right? A half second old, it might be good enough. Maybe I do have to hit the database. That's fine. Do we still really have to hit a database? Is it a relational database? I mean, again, all things that go into the cost, and you gotta really be practical about those. If you want to get to market, you want to get to break even so that you can get that sexy EBITDA multiple on yourself, right? So packaging, it's a little bit shifted over there, isn't it? You could see from that first slide, there are lots of different types of companies that take our data, and it doesn't take necessarily a rocket scientist to look at it and go, oh yeah, okay, well there's a few natural axes that you can break it out on. Product, right? You buy football data, you pay this. Buy baseball data, you pay that. You buy both of them, you get a package discount. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Timeliness. As people came, there's 4 distinct buckets that I found. People that want real-time data, casinos, media companies, stuff like that. Then there's kind of the premium. 2-3 minute updates are fine. Maybe I just want halftime. Maybe I just want post game, and maybe I only want to pay $200 for it. Okay, that makes sense. Depth. This is one place that I heard a couple people talk about this, and it's heresy. I don't limit people on depth. Right? Data's a drug. I want to give it to you. I want to blow your minds. I want you to do with it what you want. So when it comes to depth, I give you my stats, I give you everything. All my real-time stats. I mean, and there are a lot of them. I mean, it's crazy the amount of details out there because we support fantasy providers. It is so much easier to give you all the data and let you cull through it than it is to provision every one of you as a separate feed, monitor said feed, all that. Cost way too much money to do that. Turns out it's the best damn sales tool in the history of the world. People get in there like, holy crap, I didn't know you had this is awesome. And all it does is it makes them more excited about your product. So it's hard, and especially in a big company, this is our core competency. What a bunch of crap. Share as much as you can. If you're uncomfortable sharing it, it's probably worth sharing, as a matter of fact. So really challenge yourself on that. Supplemental content, I mean, it's another access or division on how I should charge people for stuff, right? Historical stats, images, all that, makes sense. And one other thing that it turned into a pain, it was a pain in the butt, but it actually turned into an opportunity, and that's kind of the ingesting and presenting partner data. I do 10 sports here domestically. I do 138 internationally. Turns out, these little data providers, they come and go. There are tons of M&A activity. So you've got to, what I've found is I have to ingest the data, provide it in a format, in a feed structure that I can recreate using other data providers. Because as these guys change, and they do, I can't expect all my customers to reintegrate every single time. It's a challenge, not gonna lie, but it's something you gotta do. So, pricing. Kind of mentioned how I broke it all up from a package perspective, right? Simple, free trials. Heard other people talk about this. When you come to the site, you sign up, you get free access to the data right away, immediately. Okay, I give you the keys in 10 seconds. And I give you 1,000 calls. So you can see the real live production data exactly as it's happening. I think it's wrong to charge people to see your product, like my competitors do. And this is we're living in an instant gratification society. The longer I take to give you that data, the more chance I have to lose you. Further, I'm having people get keys, start integrating in their data, get contacted by our salespeople. Some have even completed their integration with our data. Pricing's on our website. All of that is done before they even get a call back from our competitors, which is great because now I'm the one that they're comparing against, right? As a matter of fact, I have the chance to close several people before they've even talked to competitors because we respond so quickly. Again, this isn't hard. It's just kind of that good blocking and tackling, and it comes down to, kind of being comfortable in your own skin and sharing what you really need to share to get the job done. So as far as the pricing dimensions, talked about them by sport, easy. Timeliness, we price it just like stock data. You want real-time stock data, you buy a Bloomberg terminal and you pay a lot. You want 15 minutes old stock data, it's almost free, right? So that's kind of how our pricing model works. How do you keep your data fresh? You call a lot, okay? Turns out Mastery has a way to control that, kind of slick. So our real-time customers, they'll poll us every 5 seconds during a live sporting event. Their data stays nice and fresh, easy peasy. Depth, like I said, don't charge different no matter what. I just give you access to everything. And then supplemental content, images, editorial, all that kind of stuff. I've got to charge a little bit extra for that stuff, again, just because of what it is. With regard to promotion, been a lot of talk about that today. Honestly, Google AdWords. I get 3 to 5 qualified leads every single day. I probably got 3 while I was here this morning. It's great. That is where I certainly get the most, kind of just smaller customers, just get them in the door type things. The trade shows and events, yeah, it's expensive, but you do get a few customers out of it. Hackathons, a lot of talk about that this morning. It really is. It's kind of like, sowing seeds, getting them to drink the Kool-Aid, whatever analogy you want to use. There are some amazingly talented young people out there. It blows me away at what they can come up with overnight. And if you give them your data, it's great. Not to disparage, my big company past, but in my big company past, it took friggin' months to do what these guys will do overnight. So it's fun to see. Far and away, though, best way that we've gotten new customers, and the best way that all your APIs are going to get out there in the bloodstream of everybody is word of mouth. When somebody likes it, they tell somebody. I mean, of the best 10 customers I have there, 9 of them came from word of mouth. 2 guys having a beer, like, hey man, this rocks. It's cheap. They're easy to work with. It's amazing. And those are the guys that close in days instead of weeks. My cost of sales on my best customers was almost 0 because they came to us ready to sign. And then obviously more talk about this today, partnerships, right? I can't say that I've acquired a lot of new partners per se, but I make myself a little bit prettier, right? Integrating TV listings, integrating, social data, or whatever the heck it happens to be, sharing IDs, all that kind of stuff. It makes a difference. Versioning, or product life cycle stuff. Again, as computer geeks, we hate it when people deprecate stuff. I try not to do that. Try to think really hard before I put something in the feed so I never have to have that ugly conversation. Versioning, again, commonsensical things sometimes force customers to a version at the beginning of, say, the football season. And then I will add new attributes, nodes, whatever during the season, and I'll increment version numbers. I keep my XSDs up to speed, but as I find, a lot of people don't use them. And I don't know what kind of dirty and wrong things they're doing to parse, but adding an attribute breaks their feed. So I really got to be careful about incrementing my version numbers. It's just good blocking and tackling, and treat people how you want to be treated. Okay, I remember what I hated about when companies would change stuff on me. Lastly, support. Again, broken record. People said it this morning. Got to say it again. support. You gotta be responsive. I mean, it's not a matter of if something is gonna break, it's when. And as technologists, we are judged on how we respond when something does break, right? I mean, there's our reality. And if you respond in a very controlled, professional way, and then even when it's not a broken issue, it's more of a, hey, I'm confused issue. Really help people through the integration process. Really help them through, if there is a data integrity issue and stuff happens, got to respond quickly, because there's nothing worse, a critical problem, something wrong on your site, and nobody's there to help. And then, a few things too, just to shamelessly plug Mastery, because, when you start the company, and you can, my previous startup to this, back in 1998, okay, websites for TV stations and broadcasters and stuff. I hired, 6 people, $2 million investment for load balancers and application servers and networks and all that. When I started this company, $185 on my credit card. Mastery gave us like a quick start thing. I'm in for an afternoon and about, under $500. And my company's rolling, and I got a prototype that I can actually take out. That's how quick it was to be able to get started. Now, granted, we've had to build a lot of elegance around that, a lot of robustness, but that was a big deal. When you have hundreds of feeds like we do, having things like that new packager functionality, sweet. As the COO, I've issued a lot of keys, and it was a pain in the ass. And now with that packager, it just makes it, and quite honestly, it was a pain for me, but it was a pain for my customers, right? They had to manage all those keys. Now they can greatly reduce the number of keys they had. But the little things, the caching, and being able to apply just that second level of cache at your API, and then you go from 1,000 to 200,000 requests a second. It don't matter. You don't know, because you got your data collection is all separate from your origin, which is awesome. I get that hockey stick. My incremental cost of adding a customer is almost zero. A 10,000th of a penny per call, or whatever it comes down to, across my whole infrastructure. So it's, again, when you have a high fixed cost like I do, it's really easy to see that nice growth. And using somebody, like a Mastery to help you with those things, again, that you don't need to be an expert with, because they are, I think that makes a big difference. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.